ARESDA is almost ready for initial playtesting. I've posted information on my Discord about how to sign up, but today I'm gonna go over the current state of development and see how far away we are from a release. To start, I'd like to go over some issues which I've finally gotten around to fixing. First, I've made improvements to the character controller in order to make it work a bit better. As part of this, I've finally made the various in-game menus centered on the screen like a sensible person. I also added a character customization system. Now you can actually change your appearance and your species when interacting with the mirror. So far I don't have much in the way of options, but this will come with time. In a similar theme, to make EVA more interesting, I've added a few types of environmental hazard. Low oxygen levels are one, which can be fixed by either being in a pressurized environment, such as a space station, or wearing a spacesuit. Radiation is also a hazard, which can be easily remedied with a pill of mortisine. In terms of spacecraft, I've finally got around to redesigning and re-implementing the remaining ships from version 5 which, up to this point, I have neglected to add. This includes the Lark, Scarab, Delta Hawk, now renamed Buzzard, and Tamara, my new favourite looking ship, and also a bit of a different beast to fly, since this ship will now be the first pilotable ship to use X-Drive. What does that mean? Well, most ships in ARESDA use a propulsion method called Z-Drive, effectively running a warp drive simultaneously with engine thrust, giving a more Star Wars-like flight model. X-Drive, on the other hand, is preferred for larger ships, and it is a more conventional propulsion method. By conventional, I do still however mean sublimation-assisted fusion engines with up to hundreds of thousands of seconds of specific impulse, but it's relative, I suppose. Whilst the Tamara is certainly below the limits of what Z-Drive can propel, the vehicle's designers, Humanity Industries, specialise in X-Drive technology, and such vehicles do still have their perks over Z-Drive in many cases, I assume. X-Drive is still a work in progress, and it also means that I need to take some extra time to balance the Tamara's lift's characteristics. By the way, it does actually produce lift, which is really cool. I don't know if it'll be ready by the beginning of playtesting just yet, but we'll see. The Scarab is my first attempt at doing an interior with several decks. These will be filled with various utilities and pleasantries. I'm thinking this will be the sleeping quarters, this could be a kitchen room of some sort, perhaps a common room here. I don't really know yet, but I might also even make it customizable at the end of the day, but that wouldn't be implemented until after release, I don't think. That would be a lot of work to do. The Lark and the Buzzard are more of the usual affair for ARESDA ships, having a relatively small living space. The Tamara's interior is much the same. I think I'm probably going to rework the Silverfish, Hammerhead and Starlifter interiors to match the quality of the Scarab, as at the moment they do kinda suck. In terms of other additions, I've begun work on a framework for trading in ARESDA. This is a system-based supply and demand economy pricing system that's a little more intelligent than version 5's. The way it works is that each biome has specific resources which are common in them. Each system also has a population number depending on its number of stations, and wealth index. Higher wealth index, and having native access to certain resources, leads to lower prices. Higher population leads to higher prices, supply versus demand. The traded commodities are, of course, traded as the physical substances, and so they will take up space in your cargo hold, which does actually have a new visualization. Cargo now appears in your spacecraft as you store more, although it doesn't actually represent individual cargo items at the moment. That will have to wait until after release. Most of the remaining work I've done so far is to do with storylines, focusing mainly on scripted characters and storyline controlled spacecraft. As a part of the test storyline I mentioned, I've finally got around to adding these huge ITV ships to space stations other than the Cythelia space dock, and I also added a flight schedule for them. That storyline is, by the way, taking a lot longer than I thought it would, and I'm probably not going to implement it as in-depth as I initially planned to. I'd rather move on to the actual storylines which I'm planning to use in the final game. Thinking. I think in terms of miscellaneous additions, there's the elevators which I redesigned to make them more like elevators and less like teleport booths. This effectively involved masking those teleports by making the audio quiet when in elevator, along with making the elevator interior unshaded, which helps to hide any lighting changes externally. And I also added sounds for the motors, which does help quite a bit. And finally, I pushed back the release date a couple months. This is because I am stupid, and dumb, and way overestimated how fast I can work. Do expect more delays once playtesting starts ramping up. I will say though, I am still on track to finish all the core content of version 1 this year, so hopefully I can finally shift my focus into the storyline content to make it extra good. And bug fixes. Definitely bug fixes will be a priority. And speaking of playtesting... shit. Okay, recording this after the fact, so I was originally going to use a more closed form of playtest for this game, but given that it's quite a small project, I figured there wasn't really any harm in using Steam's built-in playtesting feature, so I've opted to do that instead. Basically, I'm looking for people to playtest this game. On my game's Steam page, you will see a button for request access. It'll be a while until I actually release that to you, but I just want a couple people onboarded before I get to that. I will post more information closer to that point in time. Okay, thanks, bye. Overall, I'm mainly looking for playtesters to catch all of the bugs, bad game design, and just overall jank, as well as giving me general feedback of what I'm doing right so far. At the moment, the main thing I'm working on prior to playtesting beginning is the graphics. I like the direction, but on reflection it is quite rough around the edges, and I have a lot of room for improvement, especially regarding reflections and shadows, along with making everything a bit more well defined. I'm definitely having a look into how I can improve this, especially with playtesting beginning soon. And I think that's about it for the moment. Apologies for the lack of uploads for this year. I've got exams coming up in about a month, and hopefully this September I'll be heading off to study aerospace engineering, hence why I'm trying to get ARESDA done, but also hence why I'm pushing back the release date substantially. Luckily, from what I've heard, first year won't be too bad, but I know what comes next won't be so relaxed, so we'll have to wait and see. For now, I just want to thank all of you for your continued support for this project. I'll hopefully start posting more around the end of June, and I'm hoping to get to sending all of the information about playtesting once I got a couple people signed up. And with that, all that's left for me to say is wishlist ARESDA on Steam, and I'll see you lot next time.